Before we start, please make sure to like, subscribe, and share this video with your friends and family. Also, can you please tell me where and what time you're watching? Thanks. Bert had just clocked out. It was a dreary, overcast Wednesday night, the kind that clung to your bones and made you question your life choices. He leaned over the scuffed bar counter, dragging a tired breath as he set down a chipped mug he poured for himself. The neon signs outside hummed like mosquitoes in his skull, while the ancient TV in the corner barked out static-drenched commercials no one was watching. The scotch in his glass was cheap and warm, the kind that lingered sour. On your tongue like regret, he blew a sharp whistle through his teeth, jolting the half-conscious drunk slumped in the corner booth. Jesus, Bert muttered under his breath, eyeing the man. Still breathing, huh? The guy didn't move, just sat there, mouth slightly open, staring at the floor like it had something to say. He looked like he'd been dragged through a sewer and left out to dry, tattered overcoat hanging off him, jeans filthy and fraying at the seams, one beat-up sneaker barely hanging on. His other foot was bare, yellowed toes sticking out from a hole in his sock. Bert scoffed to himself. They all look the same after a while, he thought, like they're churned out of some busted-up hobo factory. He clanged his keys against the bar. "Hey," he called, voice flat. "We're closing. You got 2 minutes or I'm dragging your ass out of here myself." The man slowly lifted his head, locking eyes with Bert. There was something off about the stare. Cold, hollow, like no one was home. Just meet behind glass. "You deaf or just dumb?" Bert added, trying to keep his cool. But the way the guy just kept staring back gave him a twinge of something he didn't like. Not fear, exactly. Unease. Then the guy's lips twitched. A crooked grin pulled across his face, revealing a graveyard of missing teeth and blackened gums. The emptiness in his eyes flickered, just for a moment, with something sharp and alive. "Name's Leslie," he said in a low, gravel-pit voice, like he'd swallowed sand and bourbon for breakfast. "You want to hear a story, son?" Bert didn't answer, just watched as the man rose from the booth, clutching an empty bottle like it was a walking stick, and stumbled toward the bar. "I got no time for stories, man. Not from a half-dead drunk, not at damn near 3 a.m. Bert muttered, already reaching for the register. "You a bartender, ain't ya?" Leslie rasped, dragging out a stool and plopping down like he belonged there. "Thought you folks were the listening type. During business hours." Bert held up his watch, cheap, digital, cracked across the face. The numbers blinked back. 2:58. "And for people who pay," Leslie didn't flinch. He pulled a crumpled 50 from his pocket and held it up like it was sacred. "Found this beauty in the gutter out front. Some rich prick must have dropped it." Bert stared at the bill, rubbed his face with both hands. God, he wanted to be home, curled up on his ratty couch with the heat turned up and the TV humming something brainless. But $50 was $50, and it's not like he had to actually listen. "Fine," he muttered. 2 minutes. That's it. Spill whatever twisted bedtime story you got, and then you're gone. Leslie chuckled, setting the 50 on the counter. It smelled like wet cardboard and old socks. Bert reluctantly picked it up and slid it into the till. "First," Leslie said, voice a touch softer now, "pour me one more. Just one." Bert raised an eyebrow. "After all that, I figured you'd keel over before you even made it to the bar." Leslie just stared at him, dead serious, then fished around in his coat and dumped a handful of greasy change onto the bar. "Tip," he said. "Now quit whining." Bert sighed. "Fine. Usual?" Leslie gave a grunt of approval. Bert turned to the liquor shelf, his fingers sticky from the handle of the arm and ale bottle. Probably hadn't been wiped since New Year's. He grabbed a pint glass, wiped it with the least filthy rag he could find and started to pour. "I like it a little foamy," Leslie said, watching him. "This looked like a damn restaurant to you," Bert shot back. "You'll get what you get. Your body when something sacred gets stripped away." The glass in Bert's hand gleamed a warm amber under the flickering lights as the last drop slid down the bottle's neck. Leslie's eyes lit, up like a dog spotting a bone. He grabbed the pint with a groan of satisfaction, tongue flicking over cracked lips, and tilted it back. Gulp after gulp, he drank like a man who hadn't tasted anything real in years. When he finally slammed the glass down, half empty, Bert felt equal parts grossed out and impressed. "So, what's on your mind, tough guy?" Bert asked, casually, grabbing a nearby glass and running a threadbare rag around its rim. Leslie smirked and nodded toward the liquor shelf. "You ain't gonna pour one out for yourself? I've seen you hustling behind this bar all night. Look like you could use a damn drink." Bert paused, hand curling around the counter. "As a matter of fact." He shrugged, reaching for the same ale. "Didn't think a guy like you still had manners." "Most people don't think that," Leslie replied. "Can't blame 'em. You see the kind of creatures crawling through this place after midnight. Cheers to that." The quiet ting of glasses meeting echoed through the empty bar. Bert took a modest sip, wiping the foam from his lips, while Leslie downed the rest of his in 2 gulps. "Good, ain't it?" Bert shrugged. "It's all right. Got better stuff in stock, and cheaper too. Wouldn't hurt to switch it up." Leslie's expression shifted. The light in his voice dimmed. "Actually, that's kinda what I wanted to talk to you about." He motioned toward the dusty window beside the bar. Outside, the lot was lit by a dim street lamp. Cracked pavement spread out like a dead sea. A few drunks loitered at the far end, shadows hunched over. "That lot out there, you see it?" "Yeah, I see it." "What about it?" Leslie's face settled into something darker. His voice lost the lazy edge. "You know what used to be there before they paved it over?" Bert squinted, shook his head. "Can't say I do." "Damn shame." Leslie leaned back, taking a deep breath through his nose, like he was bracing himself. "You mind if I ramble for a sec?" "I'm all ears," Bert muttered, though his mind had already started drifting. He could practically feel the scratchy cushion of his sofa, the comfort of late-night reruns humming in the background. "It all started when I was younger," Leslie said slowly. "Different world back then. I had goals, dreams. Can you believe I used to be a chemist?" Bert blinked. "Seriously?" "Yep. Degrees and everything. Now look at me." He laughed hollowly. "Anyway, back in those days, I had this crummy apartment not far from here. Awful place. Peeling paint, broken heater, neighbors who screamed all night. Just a miserable corner of the city." He paused, eyes drifting toward the window again. "But out there was a field. Where that goddamn parking lot is now. A little patch of green, tucked between the grey. I used to go there just to breathe, you know. Just to remember that not everything was rotting." Bert gave a quiet grunt, half listening. "Maybe you've got something like that," Leslie went on. "A place, a memory, even a song. Anything that reminds you there's more to this mess than bills and bad luck. Everyone's got their own escape." Bert nodded slightly, lost in his own haze. "Yeah, I get it. I'd go there whenever." "The walls started closing in," Leslie said, his voice getting quieter. "And I'd always come back feeling just a little bit lighter, because right in the center of that field, there was this almond tree." "Almond tree?" "Yeah, not too big, not too small. But every spring, it had burst with these pink blossoms like something out of a fairy tale. And the fruit, it was the sweetest damn thing I ever tasted. I'd scoop up as much as I could carry, make pies, soup. Sometimes I'd just eat 'em raw." Bert looked at his glass. "So that's why you always order that almond ale?" Leslie tapped the rim of his empty pint. "Exactly." His voice turned colder now, almost mechanical. "Then one day I show up, and the field's fenced off. Bright orange plastic strung around the gate. And inside, there's construction crews, bulldozing everything, uprooting plants, cutting down the trees like they were weeds." "Damn," Bert muttered. Poster on a lamppost said, "New parking lot coming soon," in these goddamn cheerful letters, like it was a gift. Leslie's hand curled into a fist. "At first, I was just stunned. I thought maybe it was a mistake. But then the rage kicked in. This deep, animal kind of rage. The kind that doesn't just go away. Was wrong. Very wrong. Bert staggered back a step, his glass slipping from his fingers and shattering on the floor in a muted crash that barely registered through the rising roar in his ears. His skin prickled. His knees buckled slightly beneath. Him. That dull ache in his gut had turned into something much worse. A twisting, acidic fire spreading like poison through his insides. His breath was shallow now. Quick. Each inhale like dragging air through soaked cotton. "I told you," Leslie said, standing up from his stool with unnatural calm, brushing off the front of his overcoat, his eyes no longer bloodshot, but eerily clear. "I wanted to talk. Just a little heart-to-heart before last call. But I figured you'd need help. Listening." Bert blinked hard, his vision swimming. What did you—" "I slipped a little something into your drink," Leslie said with a small, almost fond smile. "Not enough to kill you. Not yet. I wanted you to feel it first. The rot. The helplessness. Thought you might enjoy a little irony, you know? Bartender gets served his own cocktail. Poetic, right?" Bert's hands clutched the edge of the counter as he collapsed to his knees. His fingers were numb, his lips trembled. "Why?" he managed to croak, spitting saliva and bile onto the floor. "What the fuck did I do to you?" Leslie crouched down beside him, one hand on the bar, the other gently patting Bert on the shoulder as if they were old friends. His grin never faded. "Nothing, son. Not a damn thing." He leaned in, breath sour and hot. "But you're here, aren't you? You've been watching that lot every night from this window. You're part of it. The decay. The death of something beautiful. You didn't tear up the tree, but you served the men who did. You gave them drinks. You fed the wolves. And that makes you just another link in the chain." Bert tried to scream, but all that came out was a wet gurgle. His body convulsed, trembling as a cold sweat drenched his shirt. Leslie stood up, stretching, his back with a satisfied sigh. "Don't worry, I'll clean up. I know you care about this place." He reached over the counter and snatched the $50 bill from the register, stuffing it back into his pocket. "Might even stick around, take over the bar for a while," he said cheerfully, stepping over Bert's twitching body. "I've always liked the atmosphere." As Bert's vision finally dimmed, the last thing he saw was Leslie walking away. Calm, humming softly to himself, his silhouette dissolving into the flashing red and blue glow of a neon sign that buzzed quietly. Last call. Something was seriously wrong, worse than Leslie's story, way worse. Bert's breathing had gone ragged, his stomach clenched so tight it felt like it was trying to eat itself. The pain wasn't just pain anymore, it was wrong, foreign, crawling through him like hot wire. His vision fuzzed, blurring, at the edges, and that sweet smell, what he thought was the almond ale. It was something else. Something sharp, bitter. "You know what else smells like almonds, Barton?" Leslie's voice dropped low, syrupy with something close to delight. "Cyanide." Bert's heart skipped. His breath hitched. He turned his head up slowly to meet Leslie's eyes, barely managing to whisper, "What?" Leslie reached into his tattered overcoat, pulling out a small sachet, a dull plastic pouch filled with off-white powder. "Remember when I got you to look out the window?" he said, tapping the pouch lightly, like it was a bag of sugar. "Slipped one of these babies into your pint when you weren't watching. Surprise! You didn't believe me when I said I was a chemist, did you?" He smiled with all his teeth. "Or what was left of them. These little miracles. My own recipe, tasteless, dissolves in seconds. Delayed effect too. Just long enough for me to ramble a bit, share some stories. People like you. You never see it coming." Bert's knees buckled. His legs gave out, and he crumpled to the floor behind the bar, knocking over a stack of pint glasses on his way. Down. Shards clattered around him. His hands clawed at his gut, fingers twitching uncontrollably, as if they had minds of their own. "You psychotic piece of..." Bert barely choked out the words as he foamed at the mouth, body convulsing, against the tile. "Oh, don't be so dramatic," Leslie cooed, stepping calmly over Bert's writhing form. "Look, I get it. It burns. That's part of the design. The nervous system reacts violently before it shuts down, but it's not like I didn't warn you. I did say I was here to unwind." He grabbed the bottle of almond ale from the counter, raised it like a toast. "Ever since they chopped down that tree, I've been living a different kind of life. Vagrant, sure. Dirty, but free. People think being a bum makes you weak. Nah, it makes you invisible. Makes nights like this a whole lot easier to walk away from." He took a long pull straight from the bottle, wiping his lips on his sleeve. "Still can't beat that hearty texture," he muttered. Then he looked down at Bert, whose skin had turned an eerie, bruised shade of blue, eyes wide and glassy. "Here," Leslie said gently, pouring a little of the ale over Bert's face. "One more for the road." Bert gasped. Whether from pain or reflex, it didn't matter. He was done. "You can keep the 50, Leslie added, chuckling as he tucked the pouch back into his coat. "Thanks for your time, Barton." He turned without ceremony, pushing open the bar's front door. The rusted hinge squealed, loud and long like a scream that didn't know when to quit. Cold night air whooshed in as he stepped out into it, and then, click, the door shut. Silence. Just the flickering neon buzzing above the bar and the faint sound of Leslie whistling into the night.